هتسامحيني؟
Sama is your daughter's name, and you named your award-winning movie for Sama. So I want to ask, why did you choose this title for your movie? Why did you dedicate this movie to your daughter?
6 years ago, I didn't know if we will make it out or not. I didn't know if we will be alive or not. And I just when I had a chance to do the film, I wanted to do it as a message for her, for all the children who were born in Syria after the revolution, who they didn't know why this started. I wanted to tell her what we've been through and why we did everything we've done and what we're still dreaming of until today. It's a letter of love for Sama, for Syria, for Aleppo, for all the children of Syria, and I really hope the world can understand what happened in Aleppo.
How and why did you first decide to record everything that was going on in your country? Did you know that you would make those documents, those videos into a movie? Was this your purpose from the beginning?
So at the beginning, I was just trying to record what was happening early days in the revolution, when the regime was denying everything. You know, they were shooting protesters, they were like arresting people, and they were saying there's nothing happening in Syria. So we wanted to prove to ourselves, to our other Syrian friends, to the world that this is happening. But then started with hope that we want a better country, we want a free country. And then unfortunately it turned at some point to fears, you know, fears of being dead, fears of being killed, and no one knows what happened. No one knows the real story of what happened in Syria. I think this recording is what made me today not just like survive physically, but even mentally. I own the story, I own my story, and for me, whatever the regime is saying today, I have a more powerful proof of what happened.
Can you tell us about the process of filming in the times of war? Was it hard? Was there a lot of challenges? And did you ever think about giving up?
Yeah, the challenges are a lot. Starting with like being not a filmmaker. I've never had a camera before. I was not like in any way like know how to film. So I was trying to learn as much as I was doing all these mistakes. As so much people around me, we had no free media in Syria before the revolution, so we had to like kind of make an alternative way of telling the truth and like reporting to channels. So all this like, you know, experience we had to make through the years. Also like the technical issues with the camera and software and like the editing program and all of this stuff. It's something we had to deal with like day by day in a situation where there's no electricity, like very like few kind of amount of expertise who can help you if something happened wrong. And like I think the most important thing was the risk. We knew we are putting ourselves in, not just because living under the shelling and the bombing, which might kill you at any second, but also because journalists were targeted by the Syrian regime. Even, you know, in Turkey, after people fled, they were able to be attacking them even outside of Syria. They were always afraid of how people wanted to tell the truth and to report everything's happening, so they wanted to make so many people silent. Also, I think for me, like as a mom, it was very, very emotional for me all the times I'm seeing other kids and other moms who've been under so much like fears and suffering and loss sometimes. And maybe the most important thing as well, like finding the meaning, you know, what the point of all of this? Would this really make a difference, or it's just going to be another film or another story will come out on the news? So I think maybe the meaning is the hardest one so far.
You created the Action for Sama campaign. Can you tell us about the mission of this campaign? What kind of projects do you carry out?
When I did the film at the beginning, I was just thinking about Syria and the Syrian people. And I had some people who told me before, like, you know, like people are so bored and tired with refugee stories, with blood, with death. No one is really caring about Syria anymore as before. And I quite like understood that, and also like I expected that. So when the film came out, it was a big surprise for me that everyone really cares and everyone wanted to tell more and more and more about the story. And for this, in every screening we went to around the world, whether it's in America, in Japan, in Europe, or like any other country, people always stood up and asked me, what can we do? And this question was very important because it gives the feeling that people are not just like getting emotional about this, but they want to do something. They are willing to do something. So for that, we created Action for Sama. We wanted to continue fighting in different ways. We are using the film now to screen and tell the people about what happened and more awareness. But also we have so many other activities where we include Syrian and non-Syrian people, and we try just, you know, to find another way of keep going.
بحبك كثير أكثر من أصلا في ضرب كثير اليوم. سما أنا بعرف إنك عم تفهمي شو عم بصير.
Hi, welcome to Turkey. You were one of the last remaining doctors in Eastern Aleppo. What was it like to work in those times of war? Can you tell us about your experiences and how you felt as one of the last remaining doctors?
So it was very, very difficult because like talking about like the lack of resources, the lack of medications, the siege itself, but the main issue was that the hospital wasn't a safe place. We knew that the hospital will be targeted at any moment. The hospital that I was working in was the last remaining hospital in the city. 9 of 10 hospitals were completely destroyed because of the airstrikes and the attacks. So the feeling of insecure, that we're working in insecure condition, we might be targeted at any moment, the staff are not safe, the patients are not safe, is the worst. And also like there is no other place to refer the patients to. Like we can't like send them outside of the city because of the siege, and there is, as I said, like no other hospitals to cooperate with. So yeah, I can keep talking for hours about it, but like yeah, that's kind of how it feels like.
You did not leave the country for a long time, and you choose to stay and help the people. So how did you make the final decision to leave? You know, what was the last straw that made you decide that we shouldn't live here anymore?
So it wasn't by option, to be honest. Like we were given only one option: either leave or die. After the agreement between the like Syrian army and they're supported by the Iranians and Hezbollah militias with the rebels fighters, the agreement was anyone who wants to leave the city to leave, but then those militias, like the Syrian army with the Iranians, will enter the city, and they won't guarantee anyone's safety. Like so it was like either we stay and then we'll be arrested, because they were thinking of any doctor, any filmmaker, any humanitarian worker as like an enemy. So like yeah, the option was definitely to leave. Even that like deciding to leave and like to be on those convoys wasn't safe. Several people were killed during the displacement. Several people were arrested and still disappeared since that moment. So it wasn't really an option, rather than like forced displacement.
What did you feel when you first watched the movie For Sama after it was finished? How was it like to vividly see and relive your own traumatic memories?
It was difficult on several levels. There are some moments that what I see like a massacre in a hospital, a lot of like patients, and I really couldn't remember those moments. And I was asking WAAD like, when this happened, where was I? And then I'll see myself like in the screen. So even moments that I lived, I think like just the memory, because of the trauma, like make it like my mind make it me like to forget it. The difficult part when watching the film actually is not like the attacks or the shelling. The difficult is the see the people we've lost. The happy moments are really what make me sad when watching it, because like yeah, we lived once in a freedom, in dignity, and you know those moments are lost. It's not about like, you know, as I said, like the attack or a target. It's the happy moment that we dared to live in freedom and dignity, and now we can't live it anymore.
And lastly, do you think people misjudge the immigrants that stay in their country? What would you like to say to those who mistreat and misjudge the immigrants?
Definitely people misjudge and mistreat the immigrants. I guess it's the fear from the other culture, and trying to kind of like make the same judgment on everyone, forgetting that each one has a different story. Like coming from Syria, for example, when we were in the UK, everyone was asking us about ISIS. And when I tell them, like in Aleppo, ISIS were only there for 4 or 5 months only. And like that's it, everyone is surprised because they're thinking like everything is in Syria is about ISIS. I guess similar like when, for example, in Turkey, I was told like, why you haven't stayed in your country and fight? And when I answer like, I tried, I really stayed and I risked everything to stay there, but then I had no other option but to leave. So like, yeah, thinking that everyone are the same, forgetting that each one has a different story, has a different reasons of staying or leaving, and we really can't kind of judge anyone for their own choices. And also people misjudge the war. They're thinking it's just like 2 armies fighting together and then like, yeah, you need to be in that one army to win. But it doesn't work like that, especially with all the war crimes that committed, like the chemical weapons attack we have, all like cluster bombs, phosphorus, well, like white phosphorus attacks, chlorine gas attack. You can't really like stay and fight those weapons, especially like for civilians. And like, yeah, that's why it's like, yeah, it's not fair to judge everyone as the same.
بحلب مدينتي لسه عم صور. هذا الشيء اللي عم بيخلي معنى لوجودي.
Merhaba Yavuz Bey. Harmoni olarak farklı kültürel kimliklere sahip insanların bir arada uyum ve huzur içinde yaşaması için ne tür projeler gerçekleştiriyorsunuz? Biraz bahsedebilir misiniz?
Şöyle ki, Türkiye'de bugün biliyorsunuz yaklaşık 5 milyon göçmen var. Bunların 4 milyona yakını Suriyeli göçmenlerden oluşuyor. Bu kişilerin Türkiye'ye geldiklerinde işte herhangi bir politika, herhangi bir siyasetle biz ilgilenmeden bu insanlar burada nasıl huzur içinde yaşayabilirler? Hem kendileri nasıl uyum sağlayabilirler hem de bulundukları toplum onları nasıl aslında kabul edebilir? Bu sebeple çalışmalar yapıyoruz. Burada hangi alanlara odaklanıyoruz? Odaklandığımız noktalar birincisi birbirlerini tanımalarını sağlamaya çalışıyoruz. Yani her iki grubunda mesela Suriyeliler ne çektiler, ne yaşadılar, neden buradalar ve şu anda Suriye'deki durum ne? Bunu anlatmaya çalışıyoruz. Sonra Suriyelilere buradaki durum ne? Bunu anlatmaya çalışıyoruz. Bu sebeple de Sosyal Harmoni Lab diye mesela bir programımız var. Bu programda Türkiye'nin en önemli akademisyenleri, sivil toplum örgütü üyeleri, aktivistleri hem Türkiye'yi tanıtıyorlar, hem Orta Doğu'yu tanıtıyorlar, hem Suriye'de neler olduğunu anlatıyorlar. Ve bir araya gelen Türkiye'den öğrenciler, Suriye'den öğrenciler bir araya gelip birlikte projeler geliştiriyorlar. Bizim arzumuz, isteğimiz beraber birbirlerinin yüzlerine baksınlar. Benim sizde bugün olduğum gibi birbirlerini görsünler, konuşsunlar, anlatsınlar. Çünkü insan bilmediğinden korkar. İnsan bilmediğine nefret duyar, öfke duyar. Biz temelde kaynaştırmaya, yakınlaştırmaya çalışıyoruz. Çünkü şöyle bir durum var. İşte Suriye'ye dönecekler, dönmeyecekler ya da burada ne yaşanacak? Bundan bağımsız olarak burada yaşıyorlarsa şu anda buranın eğitimine, sağlığına, kültürüne alışsınlar, katkı sağlasınlar ve biz de onlara alışalım. Biz de onlarla beraber nasıl yol yürünebileceğini anlayalım. O sebeple çalışmalar yapıyoruz. Burada Sosyal Harmoni Lab gibi okullara yönelik, okullarda nefret söylemi, ayrımcılıkla mücadele eden projeler gerçekleştiriyoruz. Sosyal medyada yine nefret söylemi, ayrımcılık, dezenformasyonla mücadele etmeye çalışıyoruz. Temelde böyle.
سما عملت هالفيلم مشانك. بدي إياك تفهمي شو اللي كنا عم نقاتل مشانه.
Son 10 yılda dünya göçmen nüfusunun 150 milyon kişiden 214 milyona yükseldiği tahmin ediliyor. Peki sizce bu artışın sebebi nedir? Neler düşünüyorsunuz bu konuyla ilgili?
Yani bu gerek günümüzde gerek tarih boyunca göçe sebep olan birçok sebep var. Birçok neden var. Bunlar ekonomik sebepler olabilir ve ekonomi dışı olan sebepler olabilir. Doğal afetler, savaş ve toplumsal sorunlar da göçe sebep olabilir. Günümüzde de yine aynı problemlerden dolayı göçmen sayısı artıyor. İklim krizi şu anda biliyorsunuz zaten. Yine uluslararasının kamuoyunda. O da onlardan bir tanesi olabilir.
Göçmen sorunuyla ilgili kamuoyunun dikkatini çekmek için nasıl çalışmalar yapıyorsunuz?
Aslında birçok alanda çalışmalarımız var ama en bariz iki konudan bahsedebilirim. Birincisi sosyal uyum. Çünkü Türkiye'de şu anda 5 milyona yakın sığınmacı ve yabancı bulunuyor. Ve bu insanların kültür farklılıklarından dolayı Türkiye'ye uyum sağlamaları gerekiyor. Türkiye'deki işte kültüre uyum sağlamaları gerekiyor. Tabii burada biz çok büyük bir problemden bahsedemeyiz. Çünkü Türkiye'ye gelen göçmenlerin çoğu aslında kültürlerini incelediğimiz zaman Türkiye'deki kültüre yakın olduğunu, sadece bir takım farklılıklar olduğunu görüyoruz. Dolayısıyla hem kültürel çalışmalar yapılıyor, aynı zamanda da Türkiye'deki göçmenlerin kabulünü arttırmaya yönelik bir takım çalışmalar oluyor. Bunun haricinde göçmenlere yönelik hukuki destek ve rehberlik faaliyetleri yürütülüyor. Türkiye'deki yasalar, mevzuat konusunda bir takım hem rehberlik hem de hukuki destek çalışmaları yürütüyoruz.
Suriyelilerin ülkelerine geri dönmelerini mümkün kılabilmek için herhangi bir çalışma yapılıyor mu?
Bildiğim kadarıyla tabii yapılıyor. Fakat şöyle, yani öncelikle herhangi bir göç hikayesine baktığımız zaman geri dönüşü mümkün kılmak için öncelikle göçe sebep olan etkenleri ortadan kaldırmak lazım. Siz şu anda Suriyelileri sordunuz. Türkiye'de 4 milyona yakın Suriyeli var. Bu Suriyelilerin neden geldiğine bakmak lazım. 2011 öncesinde Türkiye ve Suriye arasında aslında vize rejimi yoktu. Yani Suriyeliler buraya vizesi bir şekilde gelebiliyordu fakat gelmiyorlardı. Kendi ülkelerinde bulunuyorlardı. Fakat 2011'deki ve özellikle 2012'den sonraki insani krizden dolayı insanlar buraya gelmeye başladı. Gerek iç savaştan dolayı, gerek adaletsizlikten dolayı, gerek demokrasinin olmamayışından dolayı, belki ekonomik sebepleri de içine katabiliriz. Bu sebeplerden dolayı insanlar buraya göç etmek zorunda kaldı. Bu sadece Suriyeliler için değil, dünyadaki bütün göçmen hikayeleri için, bütün göç hikayeleri için geçerli olan bir kaide bu. Göçün veyahut da geri dönüşün mümkün olabilmesi için öncelikle göçe sebep olan etkenlerin kalkması gerekiyor.
حدا منا كان عنده أي فكرة كيف رح تتغير حياتنا للأبد؟